Welcome to Behind the Audition podcast with your host, Curt Hilton. Listen in on interviews with voiceovers, filmmakers, producers, animators, and much more. Curt, a voice actor himself, will give insider tips to the business, talk with guests about how they got into the business, and be sure to stay tuned to the end of the podcast when he challenges his guests with a pop-up audition. Now it's time for Behind the Audition podcast. Here's Curt Hilton.
Season 4, we're back. I am super excited and to get this podcast thing going. I've been on hiatus. I've been, living life. I've been, doing the VO podcast thing. And I was actually going to quit doing this thing because I was so overwhelmed with life, trying to figure out what I wanted to do on the VO side, the podcast side. And I had people reach out and they're like, hey, when's the show coming back? You're my treadmill buddy or, this and that. And I was like, you know what? I got flattered. And so I reached out to some VOs, and the first guest of the year, everybody's gonna be super excited about because I saw this guest on TikTok back when the pandemic was started, and I've always wanted to get this guest on the show. So you've heard her voice, Crayola, Coles, countless commercials, and she's even on this really cool podcast we're gonna talk about. My first guest, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Mandy Fisher. How you doing today?
Hello. Thank you. Thank you for the beautiful setup there. Thank you for having me. I'm super stoked. I've been wanting to be a guest on the show for a really long time. So this is a check off my 2024 list for me. So thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said a while ago with the TikTok thing, I'm trying to think who my guest was I had on there, and he was like, you got to get them on there. I think it was Chris Johnson. I think.
Oh, yeah. I love Chris.
Yeah. And so I remember reaching out, but the pandemic was crazy. And TikTok, I was on TikTok. I'm not on it anymore. Back when we were doing the collaboration, remember doing the collaborations on TikTok, and what you had a big following for that, and I thought it was always so cool to see you guys get on there. You and a couple other VOs would do like cartoons, and you guys would collaborate. So,
Yeah.
you think that really helped your TikTok at the time?
Sure. I think content feeds the algorithm, and yes, absolutely, it helps. But I think also just showing up helps, and being like anything else, being consistent and being you and being authentic and showing up is just part of it. But collaborations are super fun. I love doing it. I should do them more, but it's time is a fickle beast.
And speaking of time, it's 2024, and I was like 4 years ago, right? So how
Yeah.
is 2024 treating you so far?
It's interesting, January is historically always a weird month for voiceover, and because we've gone through the biggest entertainment strike in history, yes, it's technically quote unquote over, but we're still really feeling a lot of those effects now, and I think we will until the spring. So it's been strange. It's been sort of back to my wild west roots of
Mhm.
figuring it out in a scrappy way, and kind of doing things a little differently, breaking out of here's what used to work.
Mhm.
And it doesn't it's a testament to the landscape of the industry consistently changing, and
Mhm.
changing when you least expect it.
Mhm.
So I feel like I've had to dig a little deeper and be a little scrappier
Mhm.
over the last couple of months, but so far so good. It's been it's been busy, which I'm not complaining about, but busier in a different way than it
Mhm.
usually is, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, and it going back to a few years ago, it seem like there's a lot of VOs just popping like, auditioning in their booth. It was constant, same content. You really don't see that anymore. What do you think the new trend is this year that might help voiceovers get some of that, algorithm going on their side?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I'm so bad at following trends, because I don't know that following trends really works
Mhm.
anymore. Like, again, it's that because TikTok is changing, because social is changing, I don't think there are
Mhm.
trends that voiceover actors who want to be recognized in their niche can really necessarily follow any. I think you have to make your own, and I know it sounds a little hyperbolic, but
Mhm.
because we're fighting against AI, I think hopping on quote unquote trends that work for other creators who aren't necessarily entertainment professionals, it might hurt you instead of help you.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. This year was my first year, and I'm making a goal not to get away from it. Is pay to play websites. Probably 5 years ago was probably where 90% of people got their business. I think the numbers were most people made in VO $8,000 a year because they weren't marketing themselves. So this year I got excited because tax season's around. We got to look at the numbers and everything. I actually hit my goal. 2% um, of my income was only from pay to play. So my goal was
Wow.
to market, market, market. And so I reached out to production houses. I reached out to marketers. What are some tips that work for you to make sure you don't get stuck in that rut of just focusing on pay to plays? Because I personally think you should focus on your business instead of helping other businesses. Would you agree?
Yeah, I don't use pay to plays in my business model. I'm not on them. So I'm definitely an advocate for finding ways outside of them. And I know some voiceover actors who do really well on them. I'm not saying it's not something that you should do or could do, but I also know very successful voiceover actors. If they were to jump on a pay to play today, they probably wouldn't be successful. So
Hmm.
I I think because again, I'm going to sound like a broken record, the pay to play scene has changed so much over the last 5 years that I don't necessarily think it's a sustainable thing to have in your business model as a new voiceover actor, as a voiceover actor now. Like I
Hmm.
I would never get on one now, because I don't have room for it in my business model, and I just don't think that it is a sustainable way to keep my business rolling. I mean, and even you found that to be true.
Hmm.
2% is, nothing really in
Hmm.
the grand scheme of things. Sure, we love the 2%. We love to have that income any way we get it, but 2% doesn't seem like enough of a chunk of it to say that yeah, it's worth spending the time, spending the money to devote to that. So,
Hmm.
I'm a huge advocate for working freelancing with agents, using your marketing skills to get out there and figure out your SEO. Like, I wish somebody would have told me when I was first starting my business that SEO is such a big, important part of it, because
Hmm.
now I'm sort of backtracking and scrambling to set it up and make it work. Over the last couple of years, I've really dedicated a lot of time and energy into that, and I
Hmm.
wish I would have had that first set up because I think it would have helped a lot more. But direct marketing absolutely is that's where 60% of my business comes from. So I'm a huge advocate for finding your own work.
Do you like to cold call or you like to email? Which one do you prefer?
I email.
Do you? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
do you have like a personalized template, or do you like to make each email personal? Because I know there's people I talked to in the past who make a template kind of and they kind of change it, so it sounds almost robotic. Do you like to do a fresh one each time you contact a new like person?
Kind of. I mean, look, I send a lot of emails. So if
Hmm.
I was handwriting every single one,
Hmm.
specifically every single time,
Hmm.
it would that I don't know if I could get through it. But what I don't do that I think a lot of people do is on the first touch email, I cut right to the chase. My
Right.
first touch email is maybe 3, 4 sentences, 5 if I'm feeling a little cheeky. Like, I don't waste time. I don't do any of the, "Oh, I see that you did this and blah blah." Like, I get
Yeah.
right to it. I'm
Right.
solving your problem. We don't have time
Right.
to talk about our dogs and rainbows. You can do that maybe on the 4th or 5th touch as you're getting to know this person, but I
Hmm.
don't do that in the first touch. I get right to it. Here's my stuff. Does it make sense for us to connect? And if the answer is yes, great, then we can get further into it. But if the answer is no, then I save it. I reach back out another time. I don't spend time digging into the personalized
Hmm.
conversational fluff stuff. I just haven't found that that works for me.
Yeah, I was going to say that because I I have we'll get to this next point of coaching because I get emails. People don't realize who they're emailing, and get
Yeah.
this constantly. They'll reach out to me and they forget they're emailing a voice actor, or they see
Uh-huh.
Hilton Productions, so they'll think it's that I'm an agency. And I think sometimes people need to sit back before they write the email to remember who you're writing. Make it. I like the short sentence and be like a resource. I learned to be a resource and just say, hey, I'm here if you need me. I'm a resource. I just want to introduce myself. You know what I mean? Not
Right.
so I don't need to hear how long you've been a voice actor, what kind of microphone you have. Just introduce yourself, right? You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Gosh, that hits the nail directly on the head for me. Like, I
Right.
never tell people how long I've been a voiceover actor. They don't care.
Right.
They
Right. Because
don't care.
what
They
if you're
just want me to
horrible?
solve their problem. Like, they don't
Right.
give a shit. Like, just they just want me to solve their problem. They don't need to know about my studio, my like, we can get to all that later. But
Right.
in the first touch, can I solve your problem? Yes, no.
Right.
And go on from
Absolutely.
there.
And my next point is coaching. So you coach, and that's one thing that I'm excited because like I said, it was probably I think I posted something like a couple weeks ago. It was nonstop, and I was actually in the gym one time and I answered the phone. I should have never did that because I was like, what am I doing? I'm in the gym, you know what I mean? But it was just like a whatever. It looked like a serious number, and
Mm.
so I get the question all the time. Hey, I want to be a voice actor. What do I need to do? I'm like, okay, I got to figure out a plan for these people because I feel for them because they're excited. You know, they want to try
Sure.
something. Some assume that just because they on the phone, my voice is perfect. That's what they're saying to me that they can do Bugs Bunny. Nobody cares about doing Bugs Bunny anymore. So I'm like, I got to figure something out. So I set up this coaching thing, and a lot of people reached out yourself. What is your coaching method, and what are some like? So if I'm a newbie, what are some tips to those that I come to you that you first say to them?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first kind of conversation I have with actors is a little bit of a reality check, a little bit of a gut check, and sort of explaining the differences between hobbyist VO and professional VO and what it entails, because most people don't actually know what they have in their mind. Their expectations are not the reality. So we sort
Mhm,
of have a level set of expectations and what it means to be a business owner. And when you get into professional VO, you're owning a business. You're a business
mhm,
owner. You have all of the hats of a business and what that means, what that looks like, what it looks like realistically if you have a full-time job or a part-time job. I mean, we really have the conversation about how this can realistically fit into your life if you want this to be a career, whether part-time, full-time, sort of time, it doesn't matter. But because no matter how much time you want it to be a career, you still have to put in the same amount of effort to get
mhm,
there. So we talk realistics about, okay, if you have an extra 5 hours a week, here's what we're going to do. If you have an extra 2 hours a week, here's what we're going to do. We set up this sort of roadmap, this sort of
mhm,
plan to, make micro goals and realistically meet those goals. Because I think far too often, yes, starting a new adventure in voiceover is exciting, but there's a lot of whimsy attached to that. So I
mhm,
try to not snuff that out because we want people to be excited about this. It is exciting. It's
mhm,
fun. It's a passion that you get to fulfill, but there has to be an equal amount or more real reality attached to that whimsy so that you
mhm.
can succeed instead of just sort of talking about it and thinking about it and not really moving forward with it. So that's always my first approach, no matter who I'm talking to about it,
Mhm.
whether they're actors who are kind of coming into voiceover for the first time, or maybe they've done a little bit of hobbyist voiceover. Like my first conversation with people is always level setting expectations, making sure we're on the same page
Mhm.
about what I'm talking about and what I'm trying to provide to you so that, we're all singing from the same hymnal.
Absolutely. And the expectation of the cost for demos, the cost for uh, reads, and the cost for production in itself. I mean, I think people really don't know what really goes into getting this started. So do you let them know right away? Hey, look, expectations are you're probably going to drop X, Y, Z. With not just me, but also getting this business going. Do you like to let them know ahead of time, or do you just like to see how
Sort
serious
of.
they really are?
I mean, I tell people don't spend money on anything except your education. Like, take classes with as many people as you can. And yes, that's expensive. Like, you're going to invest time and money into the education process first and foremost, which can be a lot, and it
I
can
love
be a
that.
while until you are ready to buy the things that set you up to be a professional working voiceover actor, which, gear, sound treatment booths, whatever the case may be for you specifically. But yes, I do talk a lot about investment and ROI and what that looks like, and how it can take years for
Right.
some people, years for some people to see that return. So yes, I do talk about it, but I don't want to scare people. I just want them to understand that it is a process, and
Mhm.
building that foundation and inculcating education into their creative DNA is more important than buying the gear right away and trying to make money right away. And I think people often are trying to chase the money right up front. And it's more important, if you want to do this long term, to invest in that education. If you want to go on Twitter and do some jobs for no pay or a little pay with your Yeti microphone in your closet, God bless, do it. Like, have fun, do that. But that is not a career move. So I think, again, it goes back to the education of understanding what a career looks like versus what a hobby looks like.
I love that. And I think if you don't do that, the imposter syndrome will kick you real quick because they'll have a bad month or they won't get any business. And they're like, imposter syndrome. That will kick real
Yeah.
quick if you don't have the tools. And I think that's fantastic. Do you actually meet with them and they can just have Zoom calls or they can have, classes one-on-one. Then you can introduce, I think this might be good for you. I think that's fantastic because you'll see everybody wants to be a coach and they'll
Yeah.
just recommend all this stuff and then they're not successful because they didn't learn how to perform, because performing is the biggest part of this job. Correct? You agree?
It's in the name of what it is. Voice actor,
Hmm.
actor. It literally tells you what it is. But yes, a lot of people forget that part, or they think because they can do the Bugs Bunny impression that
Hmm.
they're a fantastic actor, and they don't really understand the nuances of all the different types of
Hmm.
voiceover there is, because what works in one particular vertical like commercial isn't necessarily going to translate into interactive or radio imaging or looping or whatever the other things that you want to do. The
Hmm.
skill sets
Hmm.
behind the mic as well as in the business are not all they, just because you find success in one area doesn't mean that you're going to find success in another, because there's lots of different things to do on the
Hmm.
business side and in the performance side that aren't necessarily lateral.
I love that. And so, do you do a lot of video game characters at all? I mean,
I
do
do
you
a lot of
dabble?
mobile. Yeah.
I had something that this happened recently. We're talking about performing and everything. I just recently, I did this game that's out that I'm gonna hopefully get credits soon here. But
Woohoo.
the thing that happened, it was kind of embarrassing. I don't know if this ever happened to you. I was doing the character and I went out of character and I freaked out because I couldn't get back into it. Have you ever done that before? Where
Sure.
you have like an
Yeah.
accent or like it was raspy, and I went into it, and it was so funny because I was doing a live direction with my casting director and the video game owner, and I was sitting there, and he knew right away. He knew, well, he went out of character. I was trying to go back into it, and so there was a couple times like, oh my gosh, and so I just closed my eyes and went back. But I was wondering if anybody's ever done that, gone into a character, and you're like, where did that character go? That was like a panic.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. I mean, even in commercial, this happens. And sometimes that means you just gotta like stop, get some water, maybe like
Hmm.
take a break for like a minute and just step aside, because that's a signal that you're in your own head and that you're
Yeah.
just thinking too much about what you're doing instead of trusting what you're doing, and thinking too much about what they think and what they're doing, and just getting in your own way. Like, that's getting in your own way to me. So sometimes you got to just step aside
Yeah.
and like let the other part of your brain like do what it knows it can do, because if you've done it once you can do it again.
Right.
So it's a mental block that sometimes you just gotta shove aside.
And you're talking about drinking water. We're in February. What is some things you do to keep your voice? Because I don't know about you. Do you get paranoid when you have like a session coming up? And I have kids. I'm worried about if I get sick, and or if I mean, you can't do anything. But what are some health tips for your throat that you like to do to keep to stay healthy during the winter or fall season, allergy season? What do you like to do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big proponent of steaming. I think steam is fantastic. It's got a lot of other health benefits just besides, helping your throat relax and lubricating that area. I love a nice hot shower. I think that's great. If you don't have a steam, like I have a personal face steamer, but
Oh, cool.
nice hot shower is great, or a bowl of water with your head over it with towel over it is also great. Doesn't have to be too fancy.
Yeah.
But I've kind of changed my tune about vocal health, because I've learned so much about vocal cords, and
Mhm.
nothing touches your vocal cords, because if it did, you would choke and die. So it's really more about the throat care, not your vocal cord care, but your throat care. So I also love massage, like facial massage and pressure point massage. I've learned a lot about that and how that can open up your sinuses and make your vocal passages relaxed, which can really help. And breathing, like I'm a
Mhm.
huge, which sounds like really stupid, I'm a huge breather, but I'm a huge like I try to really do exercises to activate my diaphragm so that I can understand in my body placement, because how it sounds in my chest versus in the front of my forehead,
Mhm.
lifting my soft palate in my cheeks and in the back of my neck, in the front of my face. Understanding placement and
Mhm.
breathing, I think, is essential in your overall vocal care, so that you don't misuse your voice, and learning how to scream properly and learning how to use the space in your mouth.
Mhm.
I think has been like really important to me. So, I used to like never put cream in my coffee in the morning, or I wouldn't eat, yogurt before the day.
Mhm.
Now I don't, it does, now I do everything. Like I don't care anymore, because
That's
I
awesome.
realize it was sort of a mental thing screwing with me. And yes, like dairy can like encourage mucus buildup, but it really takes a while for that to actually happen. So I drink my coffee, I have my yogurt parfaits, like I don't care anymore. And I just drink a lot of water. I stay super hydrated, and I try to just do like some massage so that I'm relaxed, and some vocal like breath support warm up so that I have the activations in my body, and
Mhm.
that's really it.
That's
That's a
awesome.
long-winded way of
No,
saying.
that's great. I'm trying to get myself. I joined a local gym in October where it has a steam room and it has a tea tree oil steam room. I just can't get myself to go into a room with people I don't know and just sit
Fair.
there in the towel. And I mean, I automatically think of Chandler and Friends. I just can't. My oldest son will go to the gym and it's like, we got to go in there sometime. But if I don't know you, I just don't want to sit next to you in the towel. I know I shouldn't be thinking that way, but
No,
just
that's
get in that
totally
comfortable
fair.
zone. So, the next topic I want to talk about is your podcast. You guys have a fantastic
Oh
podcast.
yeah.
So let the viewers know about it. The listeners know about it. What's the podcast called? And you and writer Matt.
Yes, yes, and thank you for bringing it up. It's just it's very fun. It's called Trivial Pursuits, so like Trivial Pursuits, the
Hmm.
game, but it's try three voiceover actors, and we do some trivia and we talk a little shop. Sometimes we have guests. We had Lindsay Sterling and Anthony Mendez, who's an Emmy nominated voiceover actor from Jane the Virgin. I mean, we've had so many wonderful people, and a lot of wonderful people coming up, which is exciting. But we just try to have fun. We just try to. There's so many voiceover podcasts, which are lovely and wonderful. But we didn't want it to be just another, voiceover podcast. We just wanted to have fun,
Hmm.
and maybe, learn a couple of things along the way
Hmm.
outside of voiceover, and just sort of, have it be a little conversation that you could pop
Right.
in, and maybe you don't want to listen to the whole thing and you just want to pop in here and there. And we wanted it to be that, so that it was people that in the industry, listening to other industry professionals come on and chat about the industry in a little bit of more of a relaxed
Right.
way, so that we're
Right.
not just focusing on the business
Right.
intently and asking all of
Yeah.
the same sorts of questions that
Hmm.
everyone always asks. And
Hmm.
we just wanted it to be fun. So yeah,
I
it's
love it.
me, Matt Baker, and Ryder, and we have a new episode every other Wednesday.
I love it. When I had Ryder on, he just has that infectious personality. I mean, I mean, he's such a good guy, and his voice is very noticeable. I send messages when I'll be watching TV, and you just know his voice. It's one of those
Of
voices
course,
you
yeah.
just know, and it's not so overpowered. He does it just. He's just one of the best out there.
Effortless is a great way to describe him.
So now it's time for the audition challenge.
Oh
and
geez.
and and I think you're gonna love this one. So everybody, it's time for the audition challenge. Now I sent something to you in the chat,
I
and
see.
I think before the show we were talking about um, Gen Z and boomers will embrace grandpa core. That's the trend in 2024. And after you hear this commercial, I think everybody will kind of get an idea what it's about. So whenever you're ready, just have
Good.
some fun with it.
Yeah, we're gonna go Gen Z here.
Okay.
Introducing the Jeepacor sweater, your go-to eclectic style this season. Cozy up in unparalleled comfort with trend-setting designs. Take your fashion game up a notch. Jeepacor, your essential sweater for the season.
That is awesome. As I
That's
mean,
that's my Gen Z fry. Like, I don't care if you want it, great. If you don't, great.
yeah, it reminds me of that movie, and I see the clip on like Instagram. It's that he orders the coffee, take a latte, and
Yeah.
the guy from
Why are you talking like that?
yeah, I'm not talking like why, yeah, like that was perfect. I mean, if this gets picked up, we can buy a pair of these.
The
But
Jeepacor.
yeah, exactly. So I do have a cliche question, but I do always like to ask people, getting into this business, what's some advice, even for myself? There's rough days, there's mental days,
Yeah.
there's just, I mean, everybody needs to learn, new things and new trends and all that stuff. What are some things you would tell those getting into the business and those having bad days that have been in the business to keep them motivated to like, hey, you got this, and things to do to make them feel better?
Yeah. I mean, we all do, right? Been in the business for over 15 years and it's still you have ups and downs and that is part of it. And I think we associate the downs with something negative, right? Because we feel like, why aren't we booking? Why is that person booking? We start to spiral into this sort of negative space.
Mhm.
But if you can look at those down moments where you're not as busy as, some of the other times where you're booking consistently and doing lots of other things, if you look at those down moments as an opportunity for yourself to do something else for your business, like take a new class or work on something with a friend or join a new program where there are voiceover actors that you can communicate with so that you can maybe start a podcast or do an audio drama or do something in that
Mhm.
time period where you have a down, taking that down period as an opportunity to do something else for yourself instead
Mhm.
of spiraling into why aren't I, because that's out of your control. If you can
Mhm.
take control of it, that becomes an uptime so that you're not, maybe you're down in your bookings, but you're not down on your business. You're not down on yourself. So reframing that
Mhm.
and using that as an opportunity to do something else
Mhm.
is probably the best thing. And I wish I would have taught myself that way earlier on in my career,
Mhm.
because there's so much about this business you can't control and you're never really going to fully understand why some of the things happen. But if you
Mhm.
can take control of the things you can control, then it's going to serve you in the long run. And just know that you'll come out of it eventually. Like, there's no time period, unfortunately, that you can say, okay, yeah, no, it's done. I've done the downtime and now I'm ready for the uptime. Um, but you will swing out of it again. Just control what you can control, and what you can't control, like let it go.
I love
Just
that.
move beyond it.
I love that. My grandfather used to say all the time, son, don't worry about things you can't control. And you just can't. And one thing I started doing was exercising was a big thing last year when I really, made sure I walked at least 30 minutes a day. Because if you're
Mm,
sitting there and you're just, worried about, I can't figure out how I'm going to market today. I can't figure out how I'm going to, make content and, you know, step away from the computer, get out and walk. And sometimes you might just think of some amazing ideas when you get done because
absolutely.
you need oxygen in the brain or something to just sitting there in front of your, your screen or your phone. And, one of my goals this year is not to be on social media as much. I just want to, focus more on the marketing piece or the email piece instead of focusing on putting stuff on content because
Yeah,
I mean, I think there are some things that people out there that will look, from production companies, but I think most of the business will come from your current clients, returning
sure.
clients and, what have you. But for those also listening, tell us how they can reach out to you to be the coach, to hire you for a project, to book for you. Where can we find you on social media?
Yeah, sure. I'm on TikTok as Astoria Redhead, and I am sorry in advance. You can also reach out to me at AstoriaRedheadVoiceover.com if you're looking for some voice actor resources. I have a voiceover Discord, so if you're looking for that kind of stuff, reach out to me there. If you're looking to hire me for your next job, you can reach me at mandyofish.com and see all my professional stuff there and reach out to me for some free samples, and I'm happy to do whatever. But yes, those are the two places where I am pretty consistently, and I look forward to hearing from you in any capacity.
That's awesome. So, Astoria Redhead, last question. Astoria Redhead, where
Yes.
did the name, I saw that because I was on your social media as well as when I went onto your website. Where does Astoria Redhead come from?
Well, it's like showing the magic trick. Once you realize the magic trick, you're like, oh, well, that's dumb. I live in Astoria and I am a redhead. So
So that was the
that's,
easiest question. I thought there was
yep.
something behind it. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, because I know, isn't there an Astoria, New York, right?
Yeah, that's where I am.
Okay. And I was thinking maybe that's what, but I was like, I'm gonna ask her because you never know. There might be some kind of hidden name or something. I
Nope,
don't know.
nope. You've seen the magic trick, you know how it works, and now you're like, oh, well, that's lame. Yeah, there's like really two famous Astorias. One is in New York, where I am, and Astoria, Oregon, where the Goonies is based. So
Oh,
that is one,
nice.
which is awesome, but not very far away from where I am here in New York City.
Well, now we talked about it, they won't forget it. So that there you go. Well,
Right, but the magic is gone.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, Mandy, thank you so much for being on Behind the Audition podcast. And I
Yes,
just
thank
can't,
you.
we'll have to do this again. And for those listening, please check out the podcast, check her out on social media. And thank you so much for being on Behind the Audition podcast.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening in on Behind the Audition podcast, made possible by Hilton Productions. If you need a male or female voiceover, contact us at hiltonproductions.com. Hilton Productions, let our voices do the selling.